It's October. You all know what that means. It's my birthday. So I'm making a Halloween video. Given that Halloween is by far my favorite holiday, and it's because it's super close to my birthday. So I thought for this video, hey, why not make an entire Halloween themed season for Death Battle? That's a super cool idea that no one else has done before, I think. So that's what this video is. Let's get to it. Also, apologies if some of the thumbnails look cheap. I kind of rushed them out a bit. Also, I know Death Battle doesn't do seasonal formats anymore, but shut up. This is just for fun. Starting off with our season premiere, I have chosen King Boo vs. Gengar. I honestly adore this matchup. Luigi's Mansion is a game I have a lot of nostalgia for. I used to watch Shuca Conroy's Let's Play of the game when I was around like 5 or 6 years old, and I massively enjoyed it. On the other side of the spectrum, Gengar is one of my favorite Pokemon ever. In fact, as of writing this script, I have a bag hanger of Gengar that sits next to me while I sleep. He protects me from all the monsters. Anyway, this matchup, despite not having the deepest connections, has a lot of animation potential. I mean, just go watch the Smash Bracket animation if you want proof. It's really well made. I want to say Gengar wins, but King Boo is a Mario character, and if you saw the first episode of Power Scaling Party, link in the description, you would know how busted Mario can get, so I'd probably place my bets on Boo to take the W. Episode 2 is a bit of a weird choice, especially for those who aren't really familiar with Dark Deception, but I have chosen Malik vs. Spooky for the second episode of this Halloween season. I really like this matchup. I don't have that much of a connection to Spooky, but Malik is probably one of my favorite villains in video games, period. I love his design, his voice, just everything about him is just so cool. The animation potential also goes very hard. Since both have a ton of other beings at their disposal, it can be a full-on army fight. And there can even be a reference to the moment in Dark Deception where Malik invades Spooky's mind and has her relive some of her life that she doesn't want to experience again. Like what he did to Doug Hauser in Chapter 4, I think. And anyone who knows Spooky's story will probably know what moment Malik would make her relive. As for who wins, it's somewhat debatable. If you believe that Spooky created the entire Haunted Mansion, then she should take attack potency, as it should be either multi-city block to universal, if I recall correctly. But Malik has a much wider variety of hacks that Spooky has no counter to. He can boost his speed to be significantly faster, and he should have a much larger army on his side thanks to the Joy Joy Gang clones and the Reaper nurses. So I'd probably give it to Malik, but then again I'm biased, so... This one is going to confuse many people, as one of these characters has a much more popular matchup, but for episode 3 I have chosen Freddy Fazbear vs. the dog. Now, I know a lot of y'all are going to say, what about Glitch Trap? To which I say, Glitch Trap versus Algae Rhythm from Space Jam 2. That is my answer to that statement. Like, I get it. Glitch Trap and the dog are both animal-themed guys in video games, but it's so boring when you remember the fact that Glitch Trap can't even leave his own game. At least on his own. And the dog can. Not to mention the fact that Glitch Trap is a virus and the dog is an actual guy stuck in a video game. And that's what makes Freddy vs. the dog much better in my opinion. You could have them go from outside the Duck Season game world to inside the Duck Season game world. Maybe change up the animation style from SFM in the real world to sprites in the game world. Or if you're gonna stick with SFM throughout the whole thing, have Freddy use his Adventure Freddy model from FNAF World. And hey, since the dog is an adult that kills children, it gives Freddy a good motivation to put him down, pun unintended. Maybe you can have a moment in the fight where the Freddy animatronic is destroyed, so the ghost of Gabriel, the child who becomes Freddy, comes out and finishes the dog in a super chilling way. Yeah, if there wasn't any indication before, there sure is now. I believe that Freddy will take this. But yeah, Freddy vs. the dog, much better than Glitch Trap vs. the dog. Also, Lucar Boy likes this matchup, and he's pretty cool. You should all go subscribe to him. Well, it's about time we got to our first Marvel fight of the episode. And Swamp Thing versus Man-Thing. Now, I know a lot of y'all will probably say, what about Mysterio versus Scarecrow? And to that I say, I just like this one bit. I like this one a lot better. I mean, Swamp Thing versus Man-Thing is just a really cool matchup, and really the only Marvel versus DC fight that I really want. Besides Wolverine versus Bigby, but Fables is its own thing, and it's just owned by DC and not connected to it in any way. Honestly, I don't have that much to say on this one. I think it's a cool matchup. I think the aesthetic and atmosphere would be really cool. It's just cool. Plus, I love Man-Thing. I think he is adorable. Well, since Silent Hill new game, remake of old game came out, I put Nemesis vs. Pyramid here. I like it. I like Nemesis. I like Pyramid Head. I think it's really cool. I really hope that if they do it, they don't use the RE3 remake Nemesis model because he wears trash bags and has a weird, stupid nose on his face. Pyramid Head has a ton of models you can use, like the one from Dead by Daylight. That model is cool. Look, I got nothing else to say about this one. I think it's cool, and that's really about it. Maybe the fight can start with Jill and Cheryl running away as the two monsters chase them down, only for them to start fighting because they want to kill both Jill and Cheryl. That's about it. For episode 6, I chose The Moth vs. BeJuice. Pretty self-explanatory. It's a fun Toon Force matchup with a hint of dark comedy and Michael Keaton. I think it could be really fun, and I really hope it happens someday. Episode 7 is a matchup I know one person specifically will really like. Hulk of Krypton. It's Lust vs. Lady D. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce her name. From Resident Evil Village. Another Resident Evil matchup, but honestly, I think this matchup is pretty cool, with both characters being sadistic and immortal yet physically attractive women who use blade-like fingernails to cut their enemies, and were also the results of science experiments, with Lust being the embodiment of Father's, lust. And he was created by von Hohenheim in a lab, and Lady D being infected by the Cadou parasite, granting her regeneration. Honestly, I think it could work really well, especially with both characters being sadistic. It's a cool matchup. You're welcome, Hulk. Speaking of Hulk, Episode 8 is one of his most wanted matchups. Zare vs. Sukuna from Jujutsu Kaisen. Now, I really do like this matchup, mostly because Zare is one of, if not my favorite Ben 10 villain ever. Ghost Freak is one of my favorite aliens, and Zare takes that love and amplifies it to like 13. He's that cool. As for Sukuna, I don't have a connection to him as I'm not a JJK fan, but hey, he seems pretty cool at the very least. And I like the fact that they have different power sets. It allows them to play off each other a lot better if a potential episode were to happen. So yeah, Zare vs. Sukuna. It's pretty cool. You're welcome again, Hulk. For episode 9, I have chosen another Marvel matchup, that matchup being Ghost Rider vs. Spawn. Do I even need to explain this one? It's Ghost Rider versus bloody Spawn, for crying out loud. I feel like everyone and their mother wants this matchup. Speaking of, for episode 10, I chose Nero vs. Hellboy. As many of you already know, this is one of my most wanted matchups, so you'll already understand why this is here. But another reason I want to put it here is because it has something that most Devil May Cry matchups don't have. Atmosphere. Have the fight start off in an abandoned church, with both characters being dispatched to deal with the paranormal threat. Have the intro be a slow burner, with the two walking around the dark church, just examining their surroundings, with nothing but the light from Nero's Devilbringer and Hellboy's cigarette lighting their way to the main hall, where they'll eventually meet. And because Hellboy looks the way that he does, Nero can just assume that he's the demon that needs to be killed. Also, because Hellboy is a lousy shot by his own admission, I really hope there is an interaction where Nero says, "You're a terrible shot," only for him to punch Hellboy,
with Hellboy responding, "And you hit like a girl." And given that Nero got all big baby rage mad when Dante called him deadweight, I don't think he would take that very well. So yeah, I really want Nero versus Hellboy to happen, and I think it would be a great return for Devil May Cry on Death Battle. Okay, I know that this is another Marvel matchup, but Vlad Plasmias versus Green Goblin is way too good to pass up. This is another matchup that Lucar Boy got me hooked on, and honestly, can you blame me? Vlad is one of the coolest villains in Danny Phantom, and Goblin, I mean, it's freaking Green Goblin. I'm honestly surprised that he hasn't been on the show yet. And I'd rather they put him up against Vlad, because then we'd get into sweet as hell aerial battle with Goblin flying around on his glider, and Vlad just flying. Because he's a ghost man. A ghost man. And if you ignore glitch and time stuff, it could be pretty close, which is all I really want. This next one should be pretty obvious. It's Luigi versus PacMan. I know Luigi has Shaggy, which I wouldn't be against seeing, but Luigi versus PacMan is just special to me. I grew up with both Luigi and PacMan, and I adore them as characters. Plus, given the fact that Luigi's last outing was shite, it would be a great excuse to see him return against a character who has yet to debut on the show. Plus, given how different and diverse their power sets are, it'd be fun to see how they interact with each other in the fight. Anyway, that's all I really have to say. This matchup is goated. Okay, last Marvel matchup, I promise. Episode 13 is Carnage versus the SAX from Metroid. I actually really gel with this matchup. Big shocker, the guy who loves symbiotes loves this matchup. Carnage is a character who I think got seriously shafted in his episode. Seriously, Carnage versus Lucy was ass. And I really want to see them cover the SAX, given how terrifying it can be in Metroid Fusion. I want to see them cover the sheer terror it emanates every time it's on screen. Speaking of terror, that's what I really want from this fight. A good atmosphere. Carnage, to put it simply, is bloody terrifying, pun intended. And that's actually one thing I liked about Carnage vs. Lucy. Its atmosphere. And that's something that can be amplified to 11 with this matchup. Just imagine it taking place on a space station. All you hear is the cold, unfeeling footsteps of the SAX as it's walking down a dimly lit hallway. And as it enters a nearby laboratory, we see the faint glow of a test tube housing the Carnage symbiote as it breaks out and the fight begins. Just talking about it gets me all excited. Please make this episode. I'll admit, I thought of this as a joke matchup, and it still is. Morticia Adams versus Z Vero would be a goofy episode that leans into the funny side of Halloween, so I put it on the list. Don't like it? Fuck off then. I'll admit, this next one I would never expect to be made into an actual episode, but I still vibe with this matchup, despite the fact that most of my friends don't. Carnatrix Ben versus Yellow Lantern Hal. I don't have much to say outside of the fact that Origin the Hero is doing an animation for this matchup with Crossover X that's releasing this Halloween. Yay! I'm not sponsored by Origin or by Crossover X, I'm just super excited for it. Although, if they wanted to, they could sponsor me. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anyway, go watch it when it comes out. Also, go watch Origin's Ben 10 vs. Jaden Yuki video. It looks really good, and yes, I will review it when it comes out. But as for this matchup, very excited for it as well. It's like it actually did something cool and bring every Ben 10 fan together to agree that Hal should take the win, just so that Ben doesn't have to suffer through whatever the frick the Carnatrix puts him through. I haven't read the AU, but it sounds cool. I like the alien designs, they're real creepy, and I'm a big horror guy, so yeah, go watch it when it comes out on Halloween. And for the season finale, the piece de resistance, the final matchup, it's Freddy versus Pennywise. I mean, how could it not be? This matchup is really freaking popular, and it's good, and it just had a death battle cost with Freddy actually pulling a W. At the time of writing this, we don't know what the next episode is going to be after Joker. As that episode comes out tomorrow. I'm recording this on the 26th. But if it's this one, wouldn't be surprised. It's really good. Would it be late? Absolutely. Is it entirely impossible? Absolutely not. Who am I kidding? It's probably going to be the protagonist of Owl House versus Annie Bunchuck, or whatever her name is. I don't know. I don't care about that matchup. Anyway, this matchup is super goated. There's a lot you could do with it. It's super debatable, and it's got Freddy. And quite frankly, that's all it needs to be good. If you couldn't tell, I do like the Nightmare on Elm Street films. They're great. Well, except Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. That movie sucks. Anyway, that's my birthday video. I'm 20 now, and I hate that. But y'all can give me a cool birthday present by liking, subscribing, and following me on my socials in the description below. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go watch Venom. Good night, Irene.